Morbius is the latest film to enter the Sony Marvel Spider-Man universe that they have been making independently off of the success of Disney Marvel MCU Spider-Man. You know, that great partnership that's still going. And in this film, Dr. Michael Morbius, played by Jared Leto, has, dedicated his life to finding a cure to this disease that he and his friend Milo, played by Matt Smith, have had all of their lives, and he thinks he's found it, but it turns out that it turns him into a living vampire Batman, because he based it off of vampire bat experiments. So now he is also a vampire bat creature boy, and he's doing some vampire bat creature boy things. It's funny because you know how Eminem did the Venom song at the end of the first Venom, and then he did a collaboration with a couple other artists for Let There Be Carnage? I was surprised that Jared Leto couldn't get 30 Seconds to Mars to do a song for this. Morbius! That would have been funny. Keep the meme going. First and foremost, let me just say I was not really that excited for this movie, even though the director made a solid horror movie that I really enjoyed called Life. That's a really good sci-fi horror movie. I was not won over just by that because of two things. First and foremost, the screenwriting duo behind this movie is the team behind Dracula Untold, The Last Witch Hunter, Gods of Egypt, so I was like, okay, not a great start there. And then second of all, it's Sony. I have just lost trust in Sony entirely unless Lord and Miller are working there, and also unless it's a joint venture between them and Disney's MCU. As much as I hate to say it, because I really don't. I don't like the idea of Disney owning everything, but when it comes to these movies, it's like, I would give anything for just a passable one, a good one, instead of a tonal nightmare, a cluster of different ideas that are poorly executed. So I was going into this movie with like, hey, the trailer, it looks all right, it's got someone in the director's chair who I admired for their other sci-fi horror movie, but I don't know, I'm not won over by this. I'm not sure how they're gonna do anything here, and this disappointed me. It's weird to say that because I wasn't particularly excited going in, but it disappointed me considering how awful it was. I hated this movie. It was so bad. It's up there as far as like some of the worst comic book movies I've ever seen, if I'm going to be honest with you. First of all, I would like to give some faint praise, some stuff that was very, very minor, but it's basically like the first one is kind of like these small technical things that would happen where like, a lot of the CGing with, Jared Leto's face when he does the vampire face. It's like, okay, looks, the team behind that did a good job with that. There's like some ideas in some of the action scenes where I'm like, that's not a bad idea to do something fun and different here. Maybe it's a music cue that's kicking in that, sounds kind of interesting. Very small stuff. And then the other thing is that there are some performances, like two really, where I was like, okay, that's not too bad. Matt Smith, actually, we'll talk more about the character he's playing, but he actually is having a blast playing this character. So that was something for me to latch onto, like, ooh, thank you. And then the other one who I found fun, I'm not sure who the actor's name is, I'm sorry, but he's the one acting opposite of Tyrese Gibson, that cop duo. He was the one where he came in, he's like the perfect kind of like comedic relief kind of character. Like, all right, guys, here we go. We're going to investigate this crime scene. And, I wouldn't say it's like the funniest jokes in the world, but it's something simple and just well delivered compared to everything else. Let's talk about the rest of this movie. Fucking from the first couple minutes of the movie, I saw how this movie was edited and I got incredibly worried. And then throughout the rest of the movie, I could not stop my brain from thinking about what the fuck happened in the editing room, because it feels like a botched edit. It's so choppy. There are moments where they're cutting from scene to scene. They're doing like that thing like, hey, even though people are having a conversation in this scene, we're cutting to another scene as well, but maybe cutting back to this other one. And it got so confusing, actually. Like, there's no style. There's no director's fingerprint of like, I know how to visually, deliver this information, keep the audience invested. It's just like abrupt, cut. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, do something that has some kind of like flair, some kind of style, personality, and it just feels like what it is, a product. Something that they did pretty quickly and didn't give too much thought to. And then you combine that with the fact that they completely rush over the friendship between Dr. Michael Morbius and Milo, this kid, when they're really young, when they first meet. It's just kind of like, hey, we've met up, and Michael Morbius has been here a long time, and Milo is the new kid, and like a minute passes, and you know, they've already progressed in this flashback to like, we're BFFs forever, we'll never forget each other, even though Michael Morbius is going to a special school. It's like, you've done nothing to really win me over on this chemistry or this kind of dynamic. I do not care. And then they cut to present day-ish with Michael Morbius. Now he's Jared Leto with his long hair, his big beard, and they completely rush over what's happening with his personal life. Like, as far as like, okay, we have this romantic interest, but she's kind of just introduced as romantic interest and there's nothing else to that character. They give you some quick info of like, he's the inventor of artificial blood, whatever the fuck that is, you know, like without going into it too much. And we'll talk more about that specifically in a second, but it was just one of those things where it was like, man, you guys are trying to, because you obviously have heard people say like, you know, shorter movies are better. You understand that shorter movies are playing more times in the theater, so, you know, money-making opportunity. You're trying to keep it brief and keep it flowing, keep it going. But like I said, the editing portrays you, just the storytelling in general betrays you. I feel like a lot of the actors were directed poorly in this, because there's barely a performance that really stands out as something meaty or juicy. Like I said, Matt Smith is, you know, fun, and that other cop, but everyone else is like Tyrese Gibson, who is the opposite of that cop in the duo, sleepwalking through this. It's either that or he's trying way too hard to be like tough, intimidating, like, you're Michael Morbius, I'm gonna ask you some questions, don't leave the lobby. It's like, fuck, you know, this guy is so charismatic and funny in the Fast and the Furious movies, and in here they gave him the role of, what's up, I'm a low-voiced cop who's intimidating. Like, okay. It doesn't help that, like, those characters don't have anything either. Like, as far as, like, you know, a comedic, you know, cop friendship or anything like that. You know, usually if you have a cop set that's, like, opposites, you have one who's really serious, one who's kind of funny and jokey, trying to, you know, just trying to get their foot in the door of bigger cases, whatever. There'd be something to latch onto, something funny, something personal, and instead it's just, well, we need cop characters. Give it to them, I guess. And the thing about Matt Smith is that, yes, he is fun. Like, he's a fun actor. In this movie, when they cut to him, Milo, as an adult, now it's like, well, I don't want to give too much away because I don't know how much they've given away in, like, later marketing or something like that. But it's just the way they treat that character, they needed more time with them. Because it's such an extreme, you know, whatever they decide to do with this character, it's such an extreme, and it doesn't seem like it lines up. It's stuff that happens, like I said, way too quickly, where my brain can't process it, and it feels like there's missing information, because technically there is. So it doesn't help that you have skipped over a lot of the, like, actual, you know, character growing, you know, bonding moments between the two characters, Milo and Michael Morbius. Now they are adults, and now other stuff is happening, and we're taking it to the extreme. It's like these extreme ends, and it's like, I don't care. I don't know how they operate. I don't care either, you know? It's such a basic, like, ayo, we're both, you know, on crutches and we're telling jokes as we walk. And then that scene ends and they deliver more exposition. There's a lot of bad dialogue in this. A lot of, like, it's a lot of, like, expository dialogue, but then there's moments where they'll try to be funny and the jokes fall flat. Because, and this is the other issue I want to bring up, Jared Leto is fucking horrible in this movie. Constant flat line. The man, he's trying to deliver, like, these quips. I won't say they're, like, MCU-esque quips, but he's trying to perform some jokes. He's trying to be, like, a romantic interest to the female character, and he's just lifeless in this fucking movie. Whoa, he's so bad. And for an actor who, you know, kind of embarrasses himself sometimes just because, you know, he's so committed to the craft, but then, you know, Suicide Squad, House of Gucci recently. I've heard some things about We Crash where it's like, what's up with this accent? Every once in a while, though, he will turn in a good performance. I don't think he's a completely awful actor. I don't know him personally, but what I've heard isn't really good. Go back to your 30 Seconds to Mars cult island, you piece of shit. But this is definitely among the ranks of the Jared Leto embarrassing himself ones, because it's nothing. You know what the acting kind of gave me the vibe of? It made me think of like, you know what? This movie is completely made up of people who think that comic book movies are, you know, just for kids. It's all goofy, so we're just gonna go in and not try so hard, and you know, the team will cobble together something and the masses will eat it up. Like, that's the vibe I got, because it seems like no one's trying. Everything is a subpar version of what it should be. The action sequences are incomprehensible. So much of it is like, you know, so much of it is Jared Leto having his body completely turned into CGI and just flying around, but they've added like this little wispy cloud stuff behind him too, so when he has to fight a bad guy who's similar to Venom, is just exactly the same. It's another vampire man. It's just clouds going everywhere, and there's moments where they'll slow it down briefly so the CG models can pose before they get back to incomprehensible action. It reminded me of Bloodshot with Vin Diesel, and you know how much I loved that one. It's just, I don't understand. Like, you know, this is the same director who did Life, which had fairly suspenseful action sequences, you know, hiding from this little space creature. You know, you would think that at least one thing here would be, like, fun, would be enjoyable. I think another thing that neuters this is that it's PG-13, and they can't really show a lot of blood. So there's moments where, you know, like a very highlighted one where he, like, slashes someone's throat, and someone's like, oh, and their hands are covering it. You don't see any blood pouring out anywhere. There's like rarely a moment where you'll see like blood dripping down a chin, whether it be Jared Leto or the CG model, anything, you know. I honestly, going back to like his backstory, as far as like his career, he invented this thing called artificial blood, which is like just blue stuff. I feel like that is really just it's not really a story thing that you need to care about. It's just it's a rating thing. They, you know, strategically put it in so they could be like, hey, look, you know, PG-13, he's drinking artificial blood. He's not drinking blood. I feel like a lot of the fun from a man who's becoming a vampire man would be the fact that he can just drink blood and that's it, you know. I would rather see that movie where like he's trying his best to like use his powers for good or something, but he can't help it but drink blood and drink people's blood, you know. There's like, it's just got no fun in it at all. And like I said earlier, there's just no style put into anything happening here. And one of the big things I thought of was like, you know, when Michael Morbius starts testing his powers and discovering what it is they actually are, it's just handled in a, I'm Michael Morbius and I'm recording this on my tape recorder. Let's, you know, show 5-second clips of what it is I'm learning to do. And it's like, we could just see him doing it. Just like, how is he discovering it? What exactly is he doing to like find out like, ooh, what is this little tingle I have that hints at a power? You know, it's just, well, the stuff that we did off screen we'll cover very briefly. Let's keep it moving. It's like, this is not what's interesting to me. You know, the interesting part of this story, at least when I was going in, was like, okay, I want to see, you know, the transformation stuff. I want to see all of the, you know, ways that he discovers his new self, and instead it's like, well, we want to focus more on good versus bad guy, so let's just gloss over a lot of the discovery part, when the romantic interest actually discovers that Michael Morbius has changed. Like, it's kind of, there's a way that it's handled that feels sloppy filmmaking wise, because you know how like some movies, when something has happened, they'll do like slow reveals, like hide stuff in shadows, or you only see like legs walking, and then they'll do like a full face reveal of like, here's what's happened. Instead it's just like a very, very quick like, no, there it is. Let's just keep cutting to stuff, cutting to other angles of this action with no sensibilities at all, no thought. Oh, man. So there is not a single moment in this film that I was latching onto. There is nothing that I was actually like thoroughly entertained by. There was moments where I was like, ooh, I'm picking up something that could be fun. Maybe this is what they're going for. And then it's just completely botched and ruined. And it's like, there's nothing fun here, you know? Even though I like a lot of like the CG faces they're doing, there's just so many moments where the CGI looks fucking horrible. You know, it's legitimately so bad. And then it gets worse because of the post-credit scenes. Spoilers. I don't care. I'm gonna talk about them in this video. So what happens is something completely unrelated to anything going on. They mention No Way Home, little purple rift in the sky, closes up. And then all of a sudden, Adrian Toomes, once again played by Michael Keaton from Spider-Man Homecoming, just like little glow of light, and he's appeared in this jail cell from this movie, and he's like, well, I hope the food's better here. And he's released from that prison because, they don't know who Adrian Toomes is in this universe, so he's let out. But I wanted to bring up another reason why I thought this was like a botched edit is that, when they're letting him out of the prison and getting him to a car, is that it looks very similar to the clips in the trailers where he's like, "What's up, Doc? You and I should stay in touch," those moments. But instead it's just like, walk him to the car and drive him out of here, which made me think like, oh, I bet this might have been in the original movie, but they cut it out because, Jared Leto, like I said, spoilers already, he gets in jail briefly, so they were going to cross paths here. It would have stopped the movie completely, and it would not have fit because narratively it has nothing to do with anything in No Way Home. But I'm glad they cut it, at least from the main movie. However, this is still dumb because I thought Doctor Strange fixed everything. I thought, at the end of No Way Home, with Peter Parker giving the ultimate sacrifice, that's what enabled Doctor Strange to send everyone back, fix everything. So why is Michael Keaton still here if he was, even if you want to say like, hey, multiverse, whatever, they send people who knew Peter Parker into that universe, maybe some other things happened. Okay, fine, but they fixed it, didn't they? So Michael Keaton would be out of there, like, almost instantly. So why is he still there? And then there's the second post-credit scene. These things happen pretty quickly. It's not like you wait till the mid-credits and then the very end. It's like midway through the mid-credits, and then at the end of the mid-credits you get this scene. Jared Leto just meets up with Michael Keaton, who has somehow made a new Vulture costume, even though I thought that was mostly like Stark alien tech that he stole. But I don't think Tony Stark or those aliens exist here, so how is he able to make the exact same one? The director said on Twitter, he's resourceful, and I say, that's some bullshit. And it's very obviously ADR'd and not Michael Keaton behind the mask. He's just like, thanks for meeting me, Doc. I've been reading up on you, and it's pretty cool what you do, or whatever, or something like that. I don't know why I'm here. I'm new to this universe. I think it has something to do with Spider-Man. Hey, want to form a team so we can beat him up and do some good? And Jared Leto's like, intriguing. Movie ends. So, this universe that has not shown who its Spider-Man is yet, and I guess Spider-Man does indeed exist, despite the fact Venom doesn't seem to know who he is. Whatever. Michael Keaton wants to fight that Spider-Man, despite not knowing who that Spider-Man is. Jared Leto doesn't seem to know who Spider-Man is. If he does, they did not address it in this movie. There's no, you remove any mention of Venom even, and this is like completely separate, so And also, at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, it seemed like Michael Keaton, because, the parallels are, we're the little guy. We're just trying to make a name for ourselves and just trying to survive. It seemed like at the end of that, when he was defeated, he had some kind of respect for him. Like when Scorpion came up to him in prison, like, hey, yo, I got some guys who are willing to go find him if you know who he is. And Michael Keaton's like, I don't know who he is, duh. So it seemed like there might have been at least some kind of like mutual respect there, something like that. And instead, now he's like, well, now I'm gonna beat him up, I guess. I don't like Spider-Man now. Fuck you, Tom Holland, even though Tom Holland's not in this universe. I guess, yeah, he just doesn't care that he's in a completely different universe. He's just like, hope the food's better in this prison. Time to meet up with Jared Leto. For some reason, he knows who Jared Leto is. I guess because in the original scene where they cross paths, that's where they're supposed to meet. And of course, he has access to the internet. People have been talking about him. So sure, he knows how to research Michael Morbius, but like, why is Michael Morbius like, intriguing, yeah, let's form a team and beat up Spider-Man? What part of this character has any interest in like teaming up with other people and fighting a guy he doesn't seem to have any specific attachment to? It's just such a lame way of introducing the universe more and using the multiverse to Sony's advantage. It's so lame. It's the lamest shit I could possibly think of. But it's here. This is what Sony's plan is. This is what they want to do. Welcome to the nightmare multiverse scenario. They're gonna make Amazing Spider-Man 3 with Andrew Garfield just so he can fight these lame characters, and they're gonna botch it up again. Why do you keep doing Andrew Garfield dirty like this? So yeah, I did not care for this movie. The post-credit scenes made the movie more confusing and worse, but for different reasons than what was actually happening, because it has nothing to do with anything going on. Oh my god, it's just so bad all the way through. There was not one single solid, consistent thing where I was like, you know what, despite it all, this one thing surged through. Even the things I liked have a but to them. So I think that speaks enough as to why I don't like this movie at all. It's one of the worst comic book movies I've ever seen. I'm gonna give Morbius a D-. If you have fun with this like you did Venom, I'd be surprised, because even Venom, as much shit as I talked about those movies, you know, those movies have more personality than this. But if you had fun with it, that's cool, you know, enjoy yourself, but I would not recommend this to anyone who is skeptical, to anyone who doesn't like Venom. This is way worse. I owe Venom an apology. But if you've seen Morbius already, leave in the comments below what you thought of it, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.